Day 46, what's up? Oh, barely me. My daughter has a job now and she works late. As a matter of fact, right before I got on here, she was like, Can I miss school today? I'm tired. I'm like, no, school's not optional. Work might be though. If this is too much for you. Anyway, and that's another story, maybe for another day. But anyway, so, which means she's not an independent driver yet. So I'm also staying up past my bedtime and still having to get up to do this. Not having to, I want to. I'm surrendered to it. That is part of this whole year for me. Part of what's really underneath my little rise and shine adventure is surrender. To live a surrendered life, to surrender to a call and just see where it takes me. Surrender to the adventure of a life, pursuing God and receiving that also, and all that means. Surrendering. I have a surrendered heart, or I'm trying to. And I'm willing to be tired in the mornings and or throughout the days in order to make it happen. So that is, oh man, not always easy, but it is an adventure just to see what comes, and what unfolds. And you're like, oh. But I finished the book of Ruth this morning. It's a very short book, and it is a super powerful one. And sorry, I'm looking at the ducks that are they kind of form an edge around, it seems like, to keep the ice at bay and from it forming. It's really interesting. Anyway, nature is amazing. So surrendered hearts, that is sort of what the theme that came to me from the whole book. Ruth surrendered. Naomi, even in her bitterness, was surrendering. She was going back to her homeland where she literally had land to go to. And they paired up together, and they even surrendered to that. Like, she surrendered to Ruth wanting to go with her, even though she didn't think it was the best thing for Ruth. She surrendered to Ruth's desire and expression and determination to do it. And they made, this beautiful friendship and this loving relationship. And then they arrive there, and then part of what Ruth needs to do, because she's the younger one, is to go out and work. And women in those days, and I'm not doing all the historical research. I know if you want to find out all the customs, I'm not doing that as part of this. Ain't got time for that. I mean, I will do it, but I'm just letting the word speak to me and see the themes. Anyway, we've talked about that before. And so she goes out and starts, she asks permission to go and collect what's left over behind the other women that are there and are entitled to work the land or harvest the barley and pick up the grains. And she is going behind all the work that's being done and getting whatever leftovers there are in the ground. So probably very tedious, hard work, but she's doing it. And it seems to be with a grateful heart, like when you read between the lines, because, the other people watching her work refer to her as, that she works tirelessly, that she is just grateful. Then she's invited to the table. Boaz is the other star of this show. It's Ruth, Naomi, and Boaz are the star players in this. And Boaz is the owner of the land. And he kind of says, who's that over there? And his field managers, for modern terminology, say, oh, that's Ruth. She's Naomi's daughter-in-law, and Elimelech's, the father who passed away. That's, the daughter-in-law of Elimelech and Naomi. And she comes here and she works tirelessly all day. And so Boaz, kind of takes notice, like, oh, that's really cool. And she's dedicated, she's surrendered, she's grateful, that's part of what surrender does, is it allows you to sort of get out of yourself and to just be grateful, because you're constantly curious and paying attention, like what's happening now, what's happening in this situation, and then being like, oh, like surrender is not this weak, helpless, like, oh, I'm just going to take whatever's handed to me. No, it's a strong position to live from, and it creates, or it partners with gratitude and mindfulness and curiosity. We have a lot of geese here right now, and they're making a mess of the park. Geese poop everywhere. Anyway, back to surrender. So it really is I invite you to try it, to have a surrender experiment. One of my favorite authors, Michael Singer, wrote a book called The Surrender Experiment. I think that's the title of it. Anyway, I love that. And there's some other ones that aren't even necessarily Christian authors. Like, I don't want you to think I'm super, like, I'm trying to be super spiritual, but I'm not super spiritual. Like, I take it all in, because God created all of it, and he works all things together for the good. So anyhow, so there you see surrender all over the place. And even Boaz is following his surrendered nature of noticing this woman who's hardworking and is the daughter-in-law of this couple. And he invites her to have dinner with him. Like, he's curious. He's like, I need to pay attention. And has dinner with her. And then she just continues to outpour gratitude and appreciation. And she even has so much to eat and fill her belly with the roasted grain. She has leftovers to take back to her mother-in-law. And also in the story, it starts with her working behind the other women that are harvesting. And then the language shifts and says now she's working with them. So her position gets elevated slowly as she is demonstrating just this gratitude, surrender, just hard work. And I was even trying to think of, I'm going to show you the sunrise real quick. It's beautiful. There's the sun. In our modern day, I can imagine, like, if I was working hard like this and just being kind of happy about it, I would have some friends that might say to me, or maybe other people that might say, gosh, you really deserve to be promoted. You're working so hard, and you're not, we get impatient for things, and we want human recognition, and timing of things. Like, you're being taken advantage of, things like that we hear into our modern sort of hustle culture that I feel like I've got to fight against sometimes, even within myself. And so we've got this beautiful example of what can happen if you're patient. Yeah, that's another word that partners with surrender. It's patience, it's mindfulness, it's gratitude, it's curiosity, it's trusting that's what's happening. And then Naomi, she's so excited about all this. She rushes home and she tells Naomi about all of this. And Naomi says, oh, wow, Boaz is one of our kinsman redeemers. And they have this system back in these days of Israel that if the males of the family were to die, somebody needs to step in and help, that woman conceive children. And then those children will actually be considered the children of the person that died, so that the family name gets passed on. It's a very interesting custom. But anyway, and there's a process, I guess, when that happens. And Naomi outlines like her sending Ruth to go in after this special season of threshing of the grain, and to lay at Boaz's feet, to get all dressed up, put perfume on, put on her Sunday best, and go just lay at his feet. No hanky-panky going on, just basically it's a surrendered position to go and say, here, I am here if you want me. You're my redeemer, and I am open to this process of whatever redemption means for this family line and my role in that. And also, as part of that, we learn and we read between the lines that by doing this, Naomi, who is the owner of the land now, of the heir of her late husband and her sons, is offering to sell the land to Boaz. And then Boaz, being the upstanding guy that he is, and surrendered to the customs and the way things work, he said, well, actually, I'm not first in line for this position. I really want it, but there's this other dude over here, and we've got to follow the customs and the process. And if he doesn't want the land and you with it, then I'll step up. I'll be your man. I'll be it. Like he's just, you can tell he's smitten with Ruth and her character. He even uses the term, you're a virtuous woman and everybody knows it. Nobody's going to question you. You've already proven your virtue and your value just by being you and how you've conducted yourself. So that's so cool too. So, if you're patient and you trust the process and you just do what you're called to do, you surrender, things work out. Look at this. It looks like I'm wearing a crown. And so they go through this whole process. Boaz ends up, the guy says, oh, I really do want the land, but I can't take her also. I can't do it. And they don't really go into detail about what that is, but he can't marry Ruth. Maybe he's already married or has enough wives. And so Boaz gets to marry her. They have a child. They name him Obed. And then we learned at the end that this is how King David, this is his great-great-grandparents. I think I got that right. And so because these folks, surrendered and trusted the process and the calling of God on their hearts, and God is just woven into this fabric of these relationships and their lives, King David will be born. And then, of course, on to King Jesus, right? So very cool what a surrendered heart and life can look like. And it's not necessarily the traditional thing that's going to get you raving human fans. It'll probably get you a lot of like, what are you doing? What are you up to? A lot of you are probably looking at me like that going, what's this strange? She's posting on Facebook all the time now. Like, what's up with this? But that's okay. I'm worried about pleasing him, not you. Although I want you to be pleased with him enough, and if you're mindful enough and curious about this and anything that I have to say, and then you're doing your part, and that, that's the ripple effect. That's how we create a fabric together, and surrendering. So the beauty of a surrendered heart and the beauty of a sunrise, and me surrendering to just God saying, it's time to get up and go out and get those sunrises in, girl, and not even knowing what he was really calling me to do and letting that unfold as it goes too. So anyway, thanks for coming along with me on my surrendered heart adventure of rising and shining day by day, 46 days. We've got a lot more to go. So it's going to be so fun. So fun. All right. Bye. Have a great day.